Up until this year, if you were to ask me which motorcycle gives you the best bang for your buck performance and fun factor, I would have said the Yamaha MT-09 and MT-09 SP. I've tested the last version of that bike, and between the power, electronics, and overall performance, that thing was a slam dunk winner. Until Honda brought the CB1000 SP to North America. In Canada, where I live, this motorcycle is a great deal. In the United States, well, I had to double and triple check that price because this level of performance for this price is unprecedented. Honda is giving this thing away south of the border, and after I spent about 1,000 kilometers on it, I came away shaking my head that you can get this much bike for this little money. So stay tuned for the full review and details of the best bang for the buck performance bike on the market today. And as always, if you're enjoying the content, please consider subscribing to the channel, liking the video, and sharing it with friends. First of all, the CB1000 SP or Hornet 1000 SP is late coming to North America as it's been out elsewhere for a year or so I'll be talking about the North American version. In Canada and the US, we only get the upspec SP version. The second thing to know about this bike is that it is running the 2017 999cc Fireblade inline 4, which pops out 155 horsepower and 79 pound-feet of torque. Nice. Price? The MSRP plus freight and PDI all in Canada is $19,100. Not cheap, but considering the competing Yamaha MT-10 SP, which is in the same class, costs $22,900 Canadian, is actually fairly reasonable for a bike with this performance. In the States, the price gets crazy because this bike costs $11,000 plus a $775 destination charge. $11,775 is not only less than the Yamaha MT-10 SP, less than the regular MT-10, less than the MT-09 SP, but it's also less than the regular MT-09, which costs $10,800 plus $675 destination price and a $750 supply chain surcharge, and that bike doesn't have the Öhlins shock. That's $12,175, $350 more than the CB1000 SP, a much more powerful and better spec'd bike. So in Canada, this thing is a good deal, and in the States, it's pretty much the best deal in motorcycling today. Where did Honda cut corners? Not the engine. This 999cc inline 4 from the 2017 Fireblade puts down impressive numbers. And while this engine has plenty of go, one of my main complaints about this bike is a big old flat spot between 5 and 7,000 RPM. This bike is gentle down low, as any inline 4 should be, but also relatively soft in the 5 to 7,000 RPM mid-range before winding up like a rubber band above 7,000. After 8,000, all hell breaks loose and you know you're sitting on top of an inline 4 race engine. The Euro version of this motorcycle does not appear to have the same flat spot, leading me to believe that this is something Honda did to meet North American environmental or noise regulations. Now, I get it, emissions laws tighten over time, and if you want to get your motorcycle past the latest emissions and noise regulations, you have to perform some fuel injection tricks at various RPM to slip a literal race machine onto the sales floor. But there are 900cc motorcycles which feel stronger than the Hornet 1000 SP in the mid-range. And that's irritating because this is the RPM at which you sit on the highway or pass traffic on a 2-lane, so having a flat spot right there is extra annoying. That is not to say that the CB1000 SP is slow, it just doesn't feel like a 150 horsepower bike passing slower traffic on a 2-lane in 6th gear. Yes, a twist and go pass is totally doable, but if you need to pass a long line of traffic fast, a downshift is a good idea. Above 7,000 RPM, the bike feels like a proper straight 4 with the rush toward redline and the accompanying wild howl of the engine, which sounds great by the way, even with the stock exhaust. And while the stock bike is good, there are already a ton of aftermarket companies offering exhausts and ECUs that will make this bike into a fire-breathing beast at any RPM. Electronics? The big Hornet has rider modes, Sport, Standard and Rain, plus 2 user modes which you can configure to your own preferences in terms of engine power, engine braking and traction control. Modes are easy to switch on the fly, just toggle the switch, close the throttle, and you're in the new mode. Of course, the bike has ABS, and a quick shifter slipper clutch combo that works well. The quick shifter can be a bit notchy at times, but is not terrible. What's missing? A 6-axis IMU. The traction control and ABS are not lean sensitive, which I suppose is another way to get this motorcycle to its amazing price. Competing 1000s and 900s have the lean sensitive gizmos. The lack of them made no difference to me, as I've been motorcycling since Bill Clinton was entertaining Monica Lewinsky in the Oval Office, but I know that the extra layer of safety is important to some folks. Many competing bikes also have cruise control, which the CB1000 SP lacks and which would be welcome on longer rides. How long? The tank holds 4.5 gallons or 17 liters and will get you about 186 miles or 300 kilometers of mixed riding on highways and back roads. And that included some spirited throttle twisting. So while the engine is good and has the potential to be super awesome, the handling is really nice out of the box. The frame is steel, and while this may be another place Honda cut costs by not offering an aluminum one, I found the unit plenty stiff. It's not at the level of a pure race machine, but is plenty high performance enough for the street and occasional track day. And considering the steel frame, the CB1000 SP is not terribly heavy, weighing in at 465 pounds wet, a few pounds lighter than the Yamaha MT-10 SP. The bike feels decently light and transitions from side to side well. It's not as light and flickable as an MT-09, but it also has a lot more power. However, because of the extra weight and smoother power delivery, it feels better planted than the lighter 900s. This is a motorcycle that does best in long, flowy sweepers. In very tight turns, the weight begins to tell, and you know that you're on a 1000 and not a 900. The suspension is fully adjustable front and back with the Öhlins shock, an upgrade on the SP model over the standard Hornet, delivering a smooth and controlled ride. There were a few occasions where I was able to make this thing squirm, punching the engine at high revs out of the corners, but even when the bike is getting wild as the engine screams past 10,000 RPM, it manages to stay planted and has none of the wild hooligan behavior of an MT-09, which squirms everywhere and wants to lift the front wheel out of every corner. Both bikes are fun, but the Honda just feels a lot more civilized. I tried each riding mode and finally settled on standard over the sport, as I prefer the smoother and more predictable power delivery, especially when leaned over on the side of the tire. I ride briskly, but never all out on the street. There are too many unpredictable variables to ride very hard on public roads, so I never miss the lean-sensitive gizmos. If I was on the track, I might miss them more, but I've tracked bikes without them, and truthfully, you should not take undue chances on road or track with or without them. You have one life, and risking it for an extra fraction of a second in a corner is not worth it. Overall, I would say the Hornet 1000 SP is a well-handling motorcycle. The bike is sporting Brembo Stylema radial-mounted front brakes, which did their job well enough that I didn't notice them. The braking was linear, powerful, and without drama. The brakes never faded, and I never had a moment when I wished for better stopping power. You get more powerful brakes on the superbikes, but again, how fast are you going to ride on public roads with hazards lurking around every corner? In terms of comfort, the big Hornet is a winner with a fairly roomy riding position and decent legroom. I'm 6 feet or 182 centimeters tall, and the bike fits me well. You sit far forward and you don't see a lot of bike in front of you, which puts a lot of weight on the front contact patch, improving front grip. The seat isn't the greatest, but my butt got used to it after a while. I'm sure aftermarket manufacturers will come up with options for the aspiring touring rider. If you do tour on this bike, you should look into a small windshield or fly screen to get some of the wind blast off your chest. There are some nice small screens out there that will look pretty integrated into the bike and complement its looks. And speaking of those looks, I liked them. I've heard the Hornets described as bland and boring, but to me the lines flow nicely and the headlight looks suitably proportioned. With bikes, it's not always a good idea to go too far out of the norm in the styling department, as you have to be able to appeal to the masses. I like the profile and overall shape of the Hornet, and I've always been a sucker for gold wheels, though you have to clean them more often than black ones to keep the bike looking spiffy. Having said that, I have to admit that being a guy who appreciates the classic look, I preferred the round headlight and neoclassic styling of the old CB1000R better. But does the CB1000 SP have character, something Hondas are sometimes accused of missing? Well, I certainly thought so. It looks good, sounds good, even with the stock exhaust, and goes like stink in the upper reaches of the rev range. And it handles well too. It's steady in turns, and I would say it's easy to ride. Would I point a beginner to this bike? Yes, if the beginner in question was a person who had some self-restraint. Meaning that a beginner should put this bike in rain mode and keep the revs down at least for the first couple of months until they feel confident and are riding and handling it well and easily. Then they can ease into the standard mode and on occasion try revving it out in a straight line. If you're a beginner who can't wait to learn to wheelie on the highway while riding with your group of hooligan friends, A, you should not get this bike, and B, you ain't gonna last long on any bike. Would I get it? If I was looking for a reasonably priced performance motorcycle, this is the new value king, especially in the US. $11K for this much bike is a slamming deal, and you're also getting Honda reliability for that. I would slap a fly screen on there, swap out the stock exhaust, and pay for a proper tune so I could have a mid-range monster with that inline 4 howl. That would be a proper sport naked to fulfill anybody's need for speed. But what about you? What do you think of this new entry into the naked performance bike market? And what do you think of that price? Does the price justify leaving out the 6-axis IMU and cruise control? Please share your thoughts in the comments below, ride safe, check out some of these other videos you might like, and may the spokes be with you.